Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/364, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 364th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thank you so much for joining. That was easy for me to say, right? On this edition, C&O But Slow, Part 2. Did I say 2 right for you French speakers? Probably not. I am not a French speaker by any stretch of the imagination. After a surprisingly fast start for a planned slow tour, it was time to head down trail. But the muddy trail conditions of the night before don't improve with more rain, and the forecast looked pretty wet, and plans, well, they're meant to change on a big bike trip, aren't they? Folks, a quick reminder to hold Saturday, June 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and whatever time it is in your time zone for a special live show celebrating 10 years, a whole decade of this dopey little podcast, Pedalshift. We'll have my top 10 moments from the entire run, a tour reveal, and some patented chat room banter. Shoot me an email at pedalshift@pedalshift.net if you have anything you'd like to contribute whatsoever to the celebration. Would love to hear from you. See you all on the 8th.
Good morning from, what was it, Lock 71? Lock 71 for day 1 of the tour, the adventure, the C&O But Slowly. You're about to hear the soundscape of, well, not only the birds, but me shaking out my tent. When we last left, I was concerned about rain this morning. In fact, I was expecting it. And guess what happened? It didn't rain. It's holding off for another couple of hours, which is kind of intriguing. This whole C&O But Slowly thing, right, would have meant I go slow. But now I'm sort of like, well, wait a second. What if I just bang out a crap ton of miles, and then once it starts raining, call it a day? That's certainly an option. But I think I'm just going to kind of take what the weather gives me. Since I'm on the better trail surface, I'm less concerned about it, although I do know that there are parts after the Paw Paw Tunnel that, with some rain, get kind of nasty. Interesting how much traffic there was around here. There's a road that is so close to where I camped here that I thought somebody was coming down the trail at least a couple times before I kind of ended up falling asleep. And I am not technically at a legal campsite. Although I wish they would make this one. It's completely mowed. It's perfect for a ton of tents. It's not 100% flat, but it's got a lot more flat space than many of the campgrounds. And maybe, as I start to talk this out, I realize why they don't want you to just camp any place, especially on grass, because, that'll create bare spots and blah, 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 blah. But this is actually a really nice spot for camping. I can't recommend it since it's not technically a legal spot. But last night I was, as you heard, although I might not have said, I was a little overdone last night, and it was very disappointing when I ran up to that one spot and there were people there, because I was really intending to stay at Pigman's Ferry. But because there were people there, I didn't want to disturb them, as I mentioned. And so, when you have that expectation that you're done and then you're not done, sometimes that can be a little tough. And I wasn't redlining, but I was definitely towards the end of what I was capable of last night, or what I was comfortably capable of, especially for a trip where I'm supposed to be all chill. So the joke of the whole thing is I'm only 2 miles from Potomac Forks. So I guess in retrospect, I wish I had gone the extra 2 miles. It was just so appealing though. This was just a cool looking spot. I ended up, and I can't remember what I told you, but I was originally going to just not pitch the tent and sleep under basically on the porch of this thing. But I felt a little too exposed for that, and I'm glad I did not do that, because I don't think I would have slept very well last night. I would have been constantly worried about, is someone coming? You know, when you're not supposed to be. It was the least stealthy stealth camp ever, let's just put it that way. So I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm glad I did go with the tent, even though it ended up extending my morning here in terms of setup. Making some initial changes to this fork bag thing. As time went on, I just did not care for how heavy it was. So I think I'm going to be playing around with different things in different bags. I'm going back to the system where I put my tent poles in basically in my tent pannier. I did not bring the big long orange dry bag, which I sometimes do. That fits it really well, and it goes on the back. Tent poles are just sometimes a pain, and I think that eventually I'll come up with a good configuration for this that works. But for the here and now, I think I'm just going to stick it into my Ortlieb. And the problem with it is it makes the Ortlieb just a little tricky to roll up, but ultimately it's not that big of a deal. Boy, last night was great. I'm so glad that I did what I did. I thought I was completely invisible from the trail, and when I woke up this morning, I realized how much I wasn't. But since I was tucked back here, if anybody's come here early this morning, they may not have seen me, but I think it would be hard for them not to. It is, it's also only 7:30 in the morning. It's 7:38 right now. So I'm nearly done with the setup here, attaching the bags. Gonna go 2 miles. Again, it does seem like the rain is coming. You can kind of tell. I'll check the weather again. It's about right now between here and Potomac Forks where you start getting more limited cell phone service. So I'm going to double check the weather just to have some kind of a sense of what the timing is going to be like. I am not wearing my rain pants yet. I will. I'll have them out. I also want to have a chance to take a look at my fenders and see if I can get a stick to pull out some of the grit and goo. Of course, that'll be temporary once I go back onto the historic towpath surfacing. It gets pretty nasty, man. But it's part of the adventure, as far as I'm concerned. But I will say I'm glad to be on the renewed path for this next part. I'll tell you what, if you have rim brakes like I do, the C&O will do a number on just scratching those up. It's just hard to keep those clean. I will attempt to do that later, but actually things look pretty good right now as I scrape at this. I think I got most of it looks pretty clear. So maybe last night on the better surface, it might have self-cleared a little bit more, which frankly I'm grateful for. Okay, well, I'm going to stop dilly-dallying because I would really like to get going. I haven't even had coffee this morning. My water supply was down to a half liter, basically, which would have been enough for a coffee or my breakfast. And I want the fact that I'm getting this dry slot here early tells me I really want to get my water situation figured out ASAP. So that, I think, is a good thing. So I'm not going to worry too much about being caffeine free for the moment. I'll rectify that in a little bit. Okay. Oh, cold. I coughed. I'm still coughing a little bit. What I'm hearing right now as I talk is more morning voice than anything else. I had much better energy than I thought that I would. We'll see how it goes over the next couple of days. I don't think it was a particularly huge amount of effort last night. Oh my goodness, the sun is coming out. It's poking through some of the clouds. Can you believe that? Well, so far so good. I'm not going to say it's a charmed ride, but because I do know that it's going to rain later. But, the fact that I packed up a dry tent was a a real gift. And the fact that I have a good shot at getting my water handled and getting breakfast and coffee in me before anything happens, I'll take all that. 10 out of 10. No notes. All right, more to come. From Potomac Forks Hiker Biker Campsite. It is definitely going to rain on me at some point. Unfortunately, the configuration here is not ideal, but there is a covering for me to do some of my cooking and eating. So I think I'm going to do that, or I'm going to at least try to get set up for that. In the interim, I have got some water to pull. And for a moment, I saw an old well, and I thought, oh no, the handle's off here. Thankfully, it's an old well. There's another one further away. One of my bigger issues, of course, is I've never done this before, which was probably something I should have done before I left. But you know, it looks like I can fill this bag without creating any issues. Whoa, there's a lot more parts to this than I anticipated. That's fine. I am going to, let's see, there we go. That's the shutdown valve. This is thrilling radio, I'm sure, for all of you. Oh boy, of course this doesn't go on the bag very easily. Yes, number one tip, make sure you have used your water filter before you leave, and you have assembled it before you leave, especially if you're expecting rain and you would like to not get rained on. Okay, I think I've got, there's the off. Great, now I can just go fill it and come running back. That's pretty excellent, assuming I got this figured out right. Let's see. Nope. Gonna have to figure out how to open the bag. Yes, maybe I should have done this before I started talking to you. Oh, there we go. Okay. I think I got this. You can hear some of the enormous frogs over there. This is not going to be easy. Interesting. I guess I can hang it there. Yeah, this is going to be tricky, but we're going to have to just make this work, because if I don't, I'm going to get rained on. So, all right. So we're running over to the hopefully easy to pump, and we're filling my bag. We're going to fill this full because I don't want to have to do this multiple times on this trip. But if I can get this filled, I can scurry back to the cover if it starts to rain, then I will have a dry, relaxing breakfast, which I am looking forward to. Unfortunately, the table is up here. I crossed a bridge to the far side of the trail. This is why this would have been a fun campsite to have stayed at last night. I really wish I had been a little bit better. All right, so this is going to have to be a two-hander, as it turns out. Okay, and that just fell out too. That's okay. I am almost assuredly going to get wet. But let's just see if we can make this work. All right. More stunning soundscapes here from the Chesapeake. Oh my God. Not the easiest pump. I think let's do one more. There we go. All right. Harder than I thought, but easier at the same time. I've had to pump away at one of those for minutes before getting a dribble before. So I now have a full bag and I can, catch my breath. Man, I'm gonna use the table here to see if I can get the top back on. Yeah, that was something else. Let's see. Am I going to do this right? Almost assuredly no. Huh. The other thing you should do is take a picture of the original state so that when you're trying to refit this back on. Did I do it right? I may have. Look at that. Handle back on. I've caught my breath, so I'm not wheezing like a crazy man. I am sweating like crazy. It's like 60 degrees, and I am sweating like a pig. Pigs do not sweat. I don't know where that came from, or that phrase came from. Anyways, I beat the rain, so that's good. You can hear all the birds and everything. This is such a beautiful campsite. If I had come 2 more miles, would have been a much more chill morning. Because I bet you I would have considered pitching my tent under this. And then, man, I would have been easy peasy. All right, next up, reading directions on getting water. I don't think you'll need to be around here for this, but I just want to give you a little bit of a soundscape of pumping water on the C&O here at Potomac Forks. Gonna enjoy a lazy breakfast. I am under 40 miles, I believe, to Hancock, which gives me all sorts of options, food and otherwise. If the rain comes and it's just a deluge, there's always the cabin. There's plenty of camping in and around Hancock. So, I'm going to take this day as it comes. All right. All breakfasted it up, coffeeed up. That was kind of fun to actually cook again. I haven't done that in what feels like forever. We're getting the phone here into its little holster thingy. It's the old school kind of rubber band style one. Ran into a crew. One or all of them are Marines or former Marines. And they said, one of the guys was like, we've done enough camping. We're doing all my words, not his, roofed lodging, which I thought was pretty funny. Good for them. Apparently there is a large group with a sag wagon of 45 people behind me. I do not intend at all to have them be a part of my ride. No disrespect. I just don't like big groups. I just don't want to be in their peloton. I don't want to be passed by them. I don't want to play leapfrog with them. So I am now going to, that I have been properly caffeinated up and properly fed, I'm going to try to get some miles under me here. We are about 10 miles away from the Pawpaw Tunnel. Oh wait, I buried the lead. It rained. It rained pretty hard for about, I'd say, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. Trail conditions still good. This is the good draining surface. It does have the wet ashtray vibes for the moment, but I think it'll improve. The sun may even poke out occasionally. According to my phone and the weather app, so grain of salt, there's no more rain until somewhere between 5 and 7, which is fantastic. I think what's happened is the big ball of rain that's coming is going to be coming tonight. 5 to 7. So, pardon me. My intention is to bang out some miles, not only to get ahead of this crew, but to get a full day of dry riding it. Because I think tomorrow may not be so hot. So there's a good argument to push in a way that gets me maybe even past Hancock, which would be a long day, but would afford me, a 0 mile day tomorrow and allow me to bail out and do Martinsburg. So there's that as an option. Or just, I mean, who cares if it's a wet night and a wet morning, it's just sort of like, that's kind of what we do, right? The bummer is that Saturday is supposed to be a beautiful day, but I don't have very much of that beautiful day that I can afford to spend. I've got a 11 o'clock train out of Martinsburg or an 11:30 train out of Harper's Ferry. So what I decide to do today probably won't have as much impact as what I decide to do tomorrow. So at this point, I'm just going to kind of enjoy the sights and sounds as I keep saying that I would. And kind of figure out the rest of the trip when I have to. Also, hey, how am I going to feel at the end of this day? If I put in a 40-mile day and end up in Hancock, I may feel just great. That's maybe even a little further than I thought I might be. And, if I'm in Hancock, we're talking, I only have 35 miles left to get to the Martinsburg train station. So there's a lot to be said about, maybe we just slow it down even more and just enjoy. I'm hearing some, maybe you can too, some squeaking. I thought it was my tires, but they're actually pretty clear at this point. It was my shoe. Sometimes the instep of my shoe will sometimes rub against the pedal crank and will make a squeak. And I sometimes forget about it, and I'm like, where is that coming from? And it drives me crazy the whole time. I don't know if you ever get that. Okay, a little bit, I should mention now that this is the first real daytime riding, this is a beautiful time of year for riding on the C&O from a flora perspective, because we're in the middle to tail end of wildflower season. And I've got an app that I probably should use on some of these flowers, because I'm terrible at identifying this kind of stuff, much to the chagrin of some of my professors in undergrad. The flowers are kind of a purplish color and then a white. And they're very similar looking, so I don't know if they're the same species or not, but they're absolutely beautiful. We missed redbud season, that's earlier. Those are those big, beautiful purplish trees as they bud. And the leaves are all pretty much fully out right now. And we're at mile marker 164, just to give a little hello there. You may have noticed that there was a change in sound, and that is because the surface has changed. This is, again, the quote-unquote new surface, but it's different. It's very quiet. It's almost like clay. There's no grit in it, no crushed limestone, so boy, it rides really smooth, like a smooth asphalt. Interesting. Don't know if that's what I've got all the way to the tunnel, but no complaints here if it is. Yeah, I don't think I was against the resurfacing, but I was skeptical that the Park Service would do it, because this is a historic national park, and the old style surface is roughly akin to what it was before back in the day. But I think the Park Service does a balance of maintaining things as they were and utilizing new technologies to make access better. And, at the end of the day, this is definitely making access a whole heck of a lot better. This is tremendous. I had not been on this part of the trail in, long enough that This was not this surface last time. So as they have been promising, every season they've done a little bit more. So this is pretty nice. And certainly makes the C&O an easier ride. But as I was talking about on day 0, I do kind of like the adventuresome element of a trail that kind of hates you back a little bit. I think that's pretty good. What a beautiful day. Yeah, the sun really is wanting to poke through. I kind of like it at this point. I don't need it to poke through, but having no rain is pretty good. In fact, I may take off the rain jacket. There's really no point in having it on, and that would allow me to keep my temperature kind of moderated. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I wear rain gear, boy, I tend to just sweat no matter what the temperature is. It's one of the reasons why riding in the rain when it's warm, sometimes I'll just kind of go with wool and quick dry pants, just because it is, that kind of clammy feeling. Even with good rain gear like what I've got, it's just a little much. I'm noticing a compactor up ahead and what looks to be the end of the new surface. I think we're going back to old school surfacing in a moment here, or it looks like prep for the new surface. So maybe that's what's happening here. Well, this will be a tooth rattler because the gravel is larger. It's not so bad. I keep forgetting this bike is actually a pretty good gravel bike when all is said and done. All right, well, that's where we're at this point in the morning. I think making some miles and getting to the tunnel is the name of the game. I've got a half a sandwich to eat later on, but having eaten a double serving of biscuits and gravy, I think it might be a while I feel the need to add anything else to it. So feeling good and much more to come. From just a few miles away from Pawpaw, I have been passed by the law enforcement peloton, and I don't think there's any possibility of ping-ponging with them. They were moving just fine. And I actually took some time to clear my fenders again because I was just getting that horrible grinding sound of the tire against, the very fine clay mud. And usually dirt will clear out of a fender pretty easily, but this stuff is so sticky that you really have to be on top of it. And now it is much better, and as a consequence, I'm riding much more smoothly, which is really nice. Yeah, it's an interesting day. It's pretty muggy, but obviously it's cool. Well, not obviously, you're not here. It's in the low 60s, and it's going to be like this all day. The birds are chirping. It's just a really great day to ride. I'm pretty sweaty for reasons that are not clear to me, probably because it's muggy. And when you're sweaty, you're kind of wet, and it's just, So I'm gonna ride. I think I'm gonna go straight through the tunnel. I'm not hungry yet, so I think I'll do my sandwich maybe at one of the campsites after the tunnel. I think Sorrel Ridge is a good one to do that. There's actually an abandoned, kind of burnt down stone building, so the foundation is still there, and it's actually kind of a cool place to take a break. I've camped there before. Check back to past episodes of the pod for that. One of these days I should index all of that. I wonder if that's something an AI can do. I'll bet you it can. Very interesting. Have to mental note that one. So I've been thinking ahead, what do I want to do? How do I want this day to go? I think very clearly I'm going to end up somewhere in the Hancock area. And just with the way the trail conditions are, oh, by the way, the trail has gone back to the historic towpath. And it's actually fine right here, but there are going to be other spots where it's going to be worse. And tomorrow, is going to be an all-day rain after an all-night rain. And I am starting to think that even though I think mileage-wise, I very easily could do, well, under ideal conditions, I could very easily get to Harpers Ferry. And I also know that there's a better trail from Shepherdstown on, and maybe even after that, it might be better. I'm sort of kind of just playing around with different ideas of Martinsburg as my end point. So we'll kind of figure that all out. I think I drew a short straw on the timing of trail conditions with the weather. If it were dry these few days, I think I could put up with, excuse me, the way the trail conditions are. And it also goes back to, hey, we can slow this way the hell down. We do not have to pound out miles. We don't have to get stressed out about mud in the fenders or anything like that. So, but the odds of it being a wet night and a wet day tomorrow are very high. So I think I kind of got a good break that today wasn't like that, because I think that would have changed things significantly about how today's riding would have gone. So I can really get a bunch of the miles in today. And by a bunch, if I'm ending in Martinsburg, I don't need a lot. So I can really enjoy the slow down pace. And again, not worry about keeping up with pelotons of other cyclists, and all that. I know there are people behind me for sure. The guy on the train, he's probably not enjoying things right now. I hope he's having an okay ride. But I do know it's pretty challenging in a few stretches of the trail, so that's probably not going to be a lot of fun for him. I hope he doesn't give up. I hope he perseveres, because this is a fun ride if you can put up with that kind of stuff. Okay, let's see. Next step is going to be the tunnel. I may or may not. There's nobody in the tunnel. I may do a soundscape for you for that mile-long push. I don't think I'm going to ride it. I've tried that before, and it's just suboptimal. Unless they've changed. I mean, they could have resurfaced it inside for all I know, but I don't think they touched it. But if it's the same as it was before, the surface within the tunnel is really uneven and has some kind of sudden potholes, for lack of a better way of putting it. It's carved stone, so it's not really a pothole. But and when you've got two panniers on either side, it's narrow. If there is somebody who's oncoming, it's difficult. Sometimes what I'll do is I will straddle the bike and walk roll, but sometimes I'll dismount too. They do ask you to dismount. So I'll just see how the conditions are. I'm excited to go through again. It's a beautiful element to this ride, and I'm excited that it's back for 2024. I think it was back for part of last year as well, if memory serves. I just passed mile marker 158, so I will leave you here. Next stop's the tunnel. Hopefully you'll be able to join me going through it. All right, Paw Paw Tunnel. I don't think anybody's in here, so welcome to the KV experience. I'm gonna do the kind of walk roll. I just have the bike light on. Unfortunately, you can also hear my tire is jammed again. Yeah, when you look at the surface, it's very up and down. It's almost like little mini speed bumps all the way through here. I think they may have kept them on purpose to stop people from riding. Now, I am actually very slowly riding, and it's actually kind of nice. It's a little cooler in here. This is a wonderful bit of natural air conditioning in the summer. There's your first couple of potholes. Yeah, the surface is sandy but stone at the same time. So it is definitely carved in. And on your right shoulder it's all brick. So the tunnel is formed with brick, which actually was made. They built a brick factory essentially here. to build this back in the day. Now, these bricks have probably been replaced, I would imagine, since the original, but it's pretty interesting. It's a mile long, and unfortunately that horrible sound is C&O trail rubbing against my tire and my fender. I've had to clear it a couple times since we last spoke. And yeah, it's starting to become a bit of a drag, I'm going to have to admit. So that may impact some of my decision making. Oh, interesting. I just went over some ruts in it, maybe helping to clear it. That's kind of nice. Until it isn't. Oh well. Yeah, I'm actually riding, which I rarely do. But because there's nobody in here and there's no pressure, I can do this on the slow side. Boy, that sounds terrible. I'll get a stick and clear it out again. But I'm having to do that every few miles at this point. And I got another 26 to go. So I'm hoping for the new surface to return sooner rather than later. But I don't know what the coverage is. Unfortunately, it was a nice surprise to have it where it was, because it never was this far out. But it's clear that they're still working on it. And unfortunately, when they're working on it, it's almost worse for the stretch where they put down the chunkier gravel and whatnot. But it is a necessary evil. Yeah, this is actually kind of fun to ride if you take it slow and aren't trying to make it with speed. I think of the folks who do the try to get it done in one contiguous ride and how they must handle this part of it. I suspect that they ride through it, but I would hope that they ride through it a little slower, because this is a little gnarly. Well, this might be the fastest I've ever gone through the tunnel. That's actually kind of nice. You know, you think about the last time I did this, when I had to do the trail, you know, I think I took hours, or at least an hour. And here I'm doing this in a matter of minutes. That's kind of nice. Some of these are a little rough on the saddle, but yeah, this is pretty great. Pretty great. There was no sign of the law enforcement group at all, so they clearly rode through this, or they went to Paw Paw, which I suppose is possible. But I understand they've got a sag wagon, as I mentioned before, so they may not need to stop in stores or anything. That may have already been handled for them. Getting dripped on a little bit here. Going through some of these ruts, they're puddles, and I'm thinking, hey, that's not the end of the world if I get a little water in there to clear the fender. But unfortunately, I think that the mud is really stuck in there, and it takes some physical intervention. Yeah, this is pretty great. Normally I'm substantially later than this going through the tunnel, so odds of me beating the rain are very high. And yeah, we are almost to the end here. This is where I think the surface gets to be the worst. Yeah, this is, I think, where I always end up hitting the wall, because the ruts kind of force you to the right towards the wall, because you clearly do not want to go towards the fenced area, which puts you into the canal, which would be very suboptimal. But that fence is, or railing I should say, is very well built. All right, starting to feel the air from the other side. Change in quality. Yeah. And I can see how canal's very low at this point. Well, this will be the first time seeing the finished descaling, which is the reason why this was closed for so long. It'll be interesting to see how it looks. I may take you along as we emerge here. That probably sounds a lot different to you. And let's see, how does it look? Well, about the same. But they redid this decking, thank goodness, because it's pretty terrible. I should stop and take a picture. I always take good pictures here. Along, right in front of the tunnel. Especially this side, it's very picturesque. All right, pull this out. Likelihood of this being a thumbnail? Very high, I would imagine. Let's get the bike in it. There we go. And we'll do a selfie even though I look like hot garbage. I'm not vain, but I'm just vain enough. Oh wow, yeah, that hair, no. That's not gonna happen. Absolutely not. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful sight. Interesting. Okay, so I am looking up and there's wedges bolted in to stop some of the layers from sliding down. Yeah, those would hurt if they hit. So I'm grateful that they put those up. Almost like big curbs. Actually, I'm even gonna take a picture of that. Whether that will end up in the show notes, I don't know, but better than what I looked like. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so descaling looks like a success. They've opened it up. Let me see if I can get a stick in here. Nice thing about the C&O, plenty of sticks. Nice ones that will allow you to kind of push the mud out. I don't know if it's my fenders. Actually, most of the time, when you get a good pro to do your fenders, it's very tight to the tire, and that's really bad for the C&O, quite frankly, because they may argue that there's no room for the mud to stick, but I would say au contraire. It sticks to any surface it can get into, any crevice, and so if you don't have the ability to push it out, you got yourself some problems. All right, I think that did it. I think that I am not going to do that with you anymore, so you don't have to listen to me snuffling through. How is that? Does that sound better? It sounds better. All right. Well, cool. Yeah, this is brand new decking. It's much smoother. They did a very nice job constructing it. Before, it was it almost felt like washboard when you would go over it. So yeah, redoing this, it's maybe even perhaps a bit wider than I remember, which is good because this is a big pinch point with cyclists and pedestrians. Of course, this is a bit of a touristy area, for lack of a better way of putting it. The opposite side of the canal, they did a lot of work. They really cleared that out. I think they removed a lot of vegetation too. So I think that they substantially cleared that. So now any rain will flow over it. Really interesting. I should check and see if they did any kind of before and after. So I would love to see how that all is. All right, we are off of the boardwalk onto the traditional surface. This, when it's wet, they have a netting here as well to catch some rocks. It already has successfully done so. This is a very rocky part of the trail. When it's raining, this can be one of the worst parts. Those of you may recall when I rode with Bell Star that one time, got a flat here. I very rarely get flats on the C&O, but I must have got a pinch flat or something. It was very strange. I just remember Bell patiently waiting, not really knowing why we had stopped. And it was kind of gnarly and wet. Just wasn't all that great of a situation for her. But she did great. She did great. We miss her. All right. Now we get some nice downhills, if memory serves, coming up because we've got a triple lock. And I just went through a lot of mud, so Lord knows I'll have to clear that in a few minutes. So we'll let you go, and yeah, probably stop for lunch in a little bit. I'm not hungry right now, so I probably should focus a lot more on hydration. So I think I may do that in a few minutes. But yeah, we're roughly, what would I say, about 30 miles or so from Hancock, which, you know, that would be some pretty good mileage, really, considering the conditions and considering the, hey, this is a slow ride kind of a thing. Certainly opens up options, and I'm feeling good, and I'm enjoying it, and the weather is cooperating, so we will keep rolling. From between mile marker 148 and 147, which means I'm in Old Town, or past Old Town, or something like that. What I am close to is the Western Maryland Rail Trail, which gets me off of the muddier sections of the C&O. Sometimes I like to stay on the C&O, because I like the C&O, but on a day like today, I think I'm going for paved, so I'll be going off of it. Interestingly, as I kind of potentially predicted, or at least speculated, my friends in the law enforcement community, bicycle thing, I call them friends because they've been very nice to me as they passed me the second time, which means they must have taken a break in Pawpaw because I didn't see them at all. And, you know, I'm, what am I, 8 miles past Pawpaw, give or take? So yeah, I think they must have taken a break there and then went through the tunnel. It's starting to cloud up a little bit more. You get the vibes that we may be getting rain a little bit earlier, but you just never know. I mean, it could just be that rain is close by, but not here. Very pleasant temperature, very Oregon coast style temperature right now, which I'm enjoying quite a bit. California coast temperature during the summer. So this really nothing to complain about except for all the mud. And I don't know if you can hear it. I'm gonna have to clear out the fenders again. Good, how are you? Let's see. Get a stick. And I'm bringing you along on the ride too much for this, I feel like. But probably somewhat worth it. Oh yeah, wow. Huge gunk came out there. All right. Yeah, there are more people than I would have anticipated out today. I think I gotta get the other side. I'm still hearing. All right. I've gotten my technique down a little bit here, except you got to have a proper stick for it. Will this be good enough? I keep hearing frogs behind me, and they sound like a person giving me a heads up that I'm in their way. All right, get some more out here. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. All right. It's interesting when I stop. Pardon me. Got some dirt in my mouth. It's been one of those days. When I stop, I find I start sweating a lot. The breeze that you get, well, that just didn't do it. Well, maybe I'm just going to stop and complete my thought so you don't have to go through more sticks in between fenders talk. Oh, Jesus, more people. Jesus. Okay, you know what? They can go around me. There we go.
Okay.
All good. Hello. That's the stragglers. Oh, and there's a few more of the law enforcement crew. There's two main groups, it seems.
Morning again.
Hello. Hi there. And that looks like that's the B crew. All right. Yeah, they're, as you heard, they're very, very friendly and very nice. And there's a faster group and a slower group. And I think they must stop enough to kind of catch up and get the two groups together and then continue. And then the faster group will go faster, etc. You know how it goes. So conditions good, except for the trail. I'm getting a little frustrated with the fender situation. It's not going to get any better over the next couple of days. So I think that this is going to get me to rethink how I'm going to approach things. I'm almost assuredly not going to go to Harper's Ferry just because although trail conditions I know are better about 10 miles out of Harper's Ferry, I also know that they can be not so hot in other portions between here and there. And it's going to be all night and all day rain tomorrow. As I think I've mentioned, that just doesn't sound like any fun to me. So it's Martinsburg it is. And I'll cancel that Harper's Ferry ticket once I get into camp, wherever that may be. The interim is kind of interesting because obviously I have some options. There's plenty of camping. There is the formerly poo-pooed idea of going to my cabin. My cat would be very happy to see me, I'm sure. So lots of different things. So I'm going to think more about that. I've already eaten my lunch. I've been rehydrating. I think I'd like to hydrate some more. Oh, there's an interesting optical, I don't know if it's an optical illusion or if it's just the way the algae flows. It is mesmerizing, almost in a disconcerting way. It flows to one point in the middle, and I don't know if that's really happening or if it's just an optical illusion, but just looking at it, you have to look away. And so I just, as I turned my head towards the canal and saw that, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know why that throws me off a bit. Well, anyways, more to come in terms of decision makings. I obviously will be sharing that with you. Weather seems to be holding out, so that's great. Today's been great riding, and clearly I've been making some good miles. If I make it to Hancock, that'll be 40 some odd miles. No, is it? Yeah, about 40 extra miles today between the 20 yesterday. So, clearly really doing pretty well. So that allows me more options for slowing things down on a rain day tomorrow. And slowdown could be zero at that rate. So we'll just see. I'm just going to try to enjoy this as much as possible, try to clear this fender and get another few miles of joyful riding. It's been there have been really nice stretches. The trail conditions are pretty good in parts, even though it is muddy in others. But you just hit a soft spot wrong, and I've been collecting it in my fender, and I wonder if adjusting it would help at all. But who knows? I think that the answer to that is where it's catching. It's not a truly adjustable spot. I don't think I would be able to get it up any higher. So we'll see how it goes. And I'll share more as I make decisions. On the Western Maryland Rail Trail. Unfortunately, the small section was effectively blocked off. There was some construction work on the road that leads up to Bill's place, and the section, the very small section that cuts off, I want to say like 1.5 miles or 2 miles of the trail. Would have been nice, but it's fine. Then you do about 4 miles on the trail again until you can get to the larger section, which I am now on. And I'm happy to be on it. I had to effectively tear off a portion of my fender that was starting to get damaged and was rubbing against my tire, and there really wasn't any other way around it. I think there might be a way to reaffix it. It's essentially the trim piece on the front of the front fender, so it's not that big of a deal. And now everything is much better. I think that was preventing some of the exit of some of the released muck. So things may be improved when I'm back on trail, which I will be later, at least for some of it. So I am contemplating a few different options, probably going to be stopping somewhere near Hancock here. And then I think I've pretty much settled on Martinsburg being my exit point, because what that allows me is the option for a Zero or a Nero tomorrow, which is good and in theme with this trip. And then I don't have to be stressed out about basically the 30 or so miles of trail that would remain. So yeah, I'm a little moist right now, I would say a little uncomfortable, but part of it is because I haven't been taking many breaks because I wanted to kind of get into Hancock before the rain started. I have been rained on very briefly, just a couple of drops here and there. So, clearly there's rain all around. I am still outside of cell phone signals, so I'll have another chance to check in. Information flow will become much better once I get into Hancock because I'll have a cell phone signal and I can kind of assess from there how I want to approach things. I may kind of I've got food clearly, but this would be my opportunity to do a resupply if I want. Haven't been eating a ton of my bars, but I do think getting some additional snacks wouldn't be a terrible idea. So yeah, I might be able to get an adult beverage for this evening as well. Didn't have that opportunity last night. Yeah, when I stop, it's chilly, that's for sure. When I'm moving, I'm sweating, so I'm wearing just my wool sweater and the quick dry pants, and I am pretty filthy right now, so I'll have to figure out a way to kind of clean up a little bit. I feel very gritty because of all of the trail that ends up on you when conditions are like this. So there's somebody who's ahead of me who's going reasonably slow, who I think I will eventually be passing. So I will bid you adieu, and next stop, Hancock, Maryland.
From Hancock, Maryland, eating fried food and drinking a full sugar Coke. I'm pretty beat. It was only, about 40 some odd miles, but it was a tough 40 miles. Ended up getting passed again. I got passed, then I passed them. I mean, it was so funny. Earlier today, a few minutes ago for you, it was like, I don't want to play hopscotch with the cops. Well, I played hopscotch with the cops all day. And then I go into the bike shop just to kind of check some things out, and one of the last dudes in the Peloton, I see he was there buying something, and I just kind of give him a head nod. It's just like, could not escape these folks, but I think I will now. I'm trying to figure out the overnight accommodation situation here, and I'll share that with you when I get that all figured out. But I think what I really needed was a more robust break and a little bit of time for this caffeine and sugar to kind of kick in. Interestingly, as I said here at the park in Hancock, there's free camping here. You could camp here if you want, which is kind of an intriguing option. I've never done it before. I mentioned that the town of Hancock is kind of but in recent trips I have found it to be better. So I just don't know. This strikes me as the type of place that could be really good or could be really dodgy. But the rain is supposed to start around 8 o'clock tonight. Okay. So if I did end up going here, hello, if dog so.
Don't hurry. Just ask her about it.
Hey, sweetheart. Hello.
So in any event, if I didn't stay here, this is certainly an option. There's plugs here in the pavilion, which is obviously, useful. I don't need it because I've got a full battery. Even my phone actually has quite a bit of charge. The reason is I did not wear my Apple Watch on this trip because the watch battery is getting pretty low, and I didn't think that it would be able to stand up even to a full day of use. So I left it at home, and now I'm noticing, my phone does better too because it's not constantly checking in with the watch and slurping up the data. So maybe that's something to think about. Lots of different options. Of course, there's campsites on either side of town, so I could backtrack or I could push forward a little bit. If I was to push forward, there's a campsite that's roughly about 20 miles away from where the jump-off point would be. So tomorrow, if I camped there, tomorrow I could basically do a very short day, so a Nero day, it would be conceivably possible for me to take a 0 tomorrow. And then there's also the prospect of riding up to my cabin tonight. It's about 16 miles. If I take the legal bridge, it's a little bit less if I take the not legal bridge, which I'm just not in the mood for, because in addition to it being not necessarily a great idea, it's also a lot of effort, because you have to really push a fully loaded bike up and down a few things, and it can be a lot. And right now, I don't think I've got that in me. But apparently I have 16 miles in me, apparently. Well, that's the other thing. If I'm going to do 16 miles, I mean, that puts me practically to Williamsport. So there's another opportunity, is that, this C&O But Slow, but I'm going to do a full mile day, full mileage, and end up in Williamsport. Geez, I just don't know. It's kind of, you either do miles today or you do miles on the Saturday. But it does seem like that I'm trying to angle so that I do little to no riding tomorrow, just because, it just is, it's going to get, the trail's wet as it is, and it's just going to get wetter, and that's just been a challenging day because of it. Cannot lie. It is amazing the way your disposition can change when you give yourself a little break and a little bit of nourishment that, while not exactly healthy, it certainly is replacing some calories and kind of getting my brain back in check. I was also noticing I drank a ton of water. I drank 3 liters of water. Yeah, maybe not quite 3, but close to it, because that's about how big my water cube is. And I pretty much filled the water cube. And it was 3 liters out of the purifier. So I probably lost a little bit here and there. So it was maybe a touch less. But yeah, I drank quite a bit of water. So I'm a hydrated guy at this point. But I drank it all. And I actually ran out within 2 to 5 miles of Hancock. So it wasn't a big deal. But that would be another thing, that no matter what I do, I can fill up with fresh water here. If I decide to go up to the cabin, I'm not going to carry, 3 liters of water. I'm just going to fill up the 2 water bottles and just go with it. So I don't know. I think that's a cliffhanger. I'm just realizing this is a good cliffhanger. You're going to have to wait till next week to find out what I end up deciding. Wow. I've never done that before. Well, join me next time, where you will find out which of the many choices I decided to take. Statistics. Miles biked, 42. Trail surfaces, 3. Liters of water purified, 2.5, give or take. Decisions to be made, where to spend the night, 1. Flats, 0. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community. Expanding into live shows and covering new tours, if you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joaquin Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zaranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Bigel, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Kropke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico,
Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Lazuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponsello, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Sarus Faravar, John Gardner, Sam Scruggs, Dwight Pittenger, Connie Bowder, Rob Merrifield, and thanks to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.